So today, I'm making Moimoi, but I just wanted to talk a little bit about the book of Revelations. Every believer must at least open that book. If you are a believer or a seeker of truth and you have never opened the book of Revelations, wow, please start today, please. Because for one, there is even a blessing attached to just opening the book and attempting to read it. You just opening the book means you are seeking truth. When you open it and you start reading it, there is a blessing. The person who wrote the book of Revelation said, "Blessed is he who reads this book." And then blessed is he who reads it and understands it and keeps to the words of this prophecy. It's a threefold blessing. If you can read it and you begin to see it and then you attempt to keep it, you are blessed 3 times over. So please open the book of Revelations, because everything that is happening now is in that book. In fact, the name for that book in Greek is called Apocalypsis. It means unveiling. So it begs the question, what is it that was veiled that needed to be unveiled? Wow. Because you think, well, I know it all kind of attitude, or, well, what is there that we don't know? By the time you start reading the book of Revelations, my dear, you realize there's a whole lot that we do not know. Now, the law and the prophets. The law and the prophets. The law and the prophets was written and it was given to people who could not understand it. Up until the Messiah came, then he began to open eyes to see all that had been written in the law and the prophets. Yeah. It was after he had resurrected from the dead that he began to open their eyes to understand scripture. As he opened their eyes, they began to understand all that had been written about him that they could not see. They never were able to make that connection up until when he opened eyes to see. So, the book of Revelation ties the law and the prophets together. It is an expose. It's an expose, okay, of ancient books. You will find sometimes that a particular line from the book of Revelations, you will find it in Isaiah's prophecy. And then the next line you find it in Ezekiel's prophecy. And then the next line you find it in Zechariah's prophecy. And the next line you find it in Daniel's prophecy. It ties everything together. Everything together. So that means that you need a certain mindset and a certain eyesight to behold the scriptures. Yeah. To begin to understand it. Very important. Very important. Okay. So, particularly today, I'm going to be talking particularly about 2 beasts. 2 beasts spoken of in the book of Revelations chapter 13. But before that, let me quickly show you the way that I'll be making Moimoi. Moimoi is a bean. Beans it's made from beans. Basically, it's like a bean pudding. Okay, beans is very high in fiber and in protein. We grind it in the mill and make it into a powdery form, and then we put that together and spice it with some peppers. So you put some red pepper, a lot of onion, and then you put quite a lot of onion, and you put it in your bean powder and you mix it. So let me show you. So that's the mixture here. I've already started mixing it. So basically I put in here the bean powder. You can get any bean powder. I got this from Urban Market, and I've put it in here, about 3 cups, and I've poured my my mixture of pepper and onion. That's basically what's in there. I put about 4 onions and a lot of pepper, but no tomato. I've not put any tomato there. And then now I'm going to put some salt to taste. A bit more salt. I'm not eating right now. I'm not really particularly, I don't really like to taste my food when I'm eating. So, and then I'm going to put Maggi, and then I put some pepper. Now put some pepper. Now I've got 2, you can garnish it as well. So people use fish. Today I don't have fish, so I'm going to use egg. But you can use egg, but I'm also going to use a very interesting ingredient, which is butternut. I'm actually going to be putting, I'm going to be putting butternut in my moimoi. My kids, they really don't like butternut. I'm always trying to force them to eat butternut. So I'm going to hide my butternut in my moimoi. I have these pots here, moimoi pots. I had them specially made for me. I probably would be able to hook you up if you're within the Joburg area. But anyway, you can use anything. You can use foil. You can use mugs. You can use basically anything, like leaves. Some people use leaves. These have special covers, and what I'm doing right now is using olive oil. C'est important. Olive oil is very important, and I am just greasing the pots with olive oil, and then I will pour my ingredients in there. And like I said, I'm going to garnish. I'm going to be garnishing. Okay, and also very important to drop a little bit of oil in here as well. And then I'll be tasting, but I'm not eating right now, so it's by faith that I'm cooking this. Anyway, what I'm going to do now is I've got eggs. I'm going to be using eggs, and I'm going to be using some butternut, and I'll be putting it in there. So I just want to show you how I scoop it in. There we go, in there. And I do the same for all of them. So it's very easy to make, especially if you have the bean powder. Some people like to make beans moimoi from scratch. That's also very commendable. If you have the time, to do that, you can actually do that. You have to wash your beans and then soak it overnight, preferably. And then you just get your beans and wash it with your hands. And as you're washing it, the whole aim is to get your skin off the beans. And then until all you see is the white part, and then you grind it with your ingredients. It tastes fresher, I guess. There's a difference, but if moimoi is made very well, you should also enjoy it like that, okay? So now I'm going to be dropping the egg in the mixture. It's boiled egg. It's nice with the boiled egg, So I'm just going to be using my hand. Fantastic. And then next I'm going to put in my butternuts. Yay! Now with the butternuts, I'm just going to take, and then I'm just going to scoop it in here. That's it. And just give it a whisk, a little bit of whisk. And then take that. Do the same here, a little bit of whisk. And then a little bit of whisk in there. A little bit of whisk there. And yeah, that's what I'm going to do to all of them. And now that it's done, it looks pretty much like this. And I'm just going to be covering it. Another trick is this. I have turned my chefing dish into a moimoi steamer. So that's because of the nature of the mugs that I have. So I'll be dropping them in there. Don't forget, it is actually the steam that cooks the moimoi and not the water. So the steam is what makes the moimoi, is what will cook the moimoi, and not the water. So I'm going to boil some more water, and I'm going to be covering this there. So make sure it's well covered. And then what I'm going to do is I'll put a foil over this and I'll cover it. So I've covered it with a foil, and then I'm just going to close. And then I'm going to cook on high heat and cook it for like, an hour, 45 minutes to an hour. Keep checking and making sure there's enough steam generated to cook it through. So yeah, if you have a chefing dish, you don't always use your chefing dish on a regular basis, except when you're hosting, you can actually turn it into a moimoi steamer and just place it directly over your gas heater or your electric cooker. Anyway, so there are two beasts that arise from the sea. The one is arising from the sea and the other is arising from the earth. The one that arose from the sea became a religious power. The Bible says it had 7 heads, and each head had a blasphemous name written on it. And the whole world worshipped that beast, except those whose names had been written in the Lamb's Book of Life. Now, this beast turns out to be a very powerful religious figure that spread its tentacles throughout the world, conquered kingdoms, and squashed truth to the ground. The early believers, were giving a testimony, were giving a gospel to preach. And he says, take this gospel, starts in Judah, Samaria, Jerusalem, and then spread it to the rest of the world. And gospel means good news. So what is the good news that they had? What is the good news? What was it that they were told to go and tell everybody about? Is this that mankind will live forever on the earth. That's the good news. Something threatened the existence of mankind and will continue to threaten the existence of mankind and bring about an annihilation or an extinction of the race of humankind as we know it today, and that threat will be addressed or has been addressed to the point that it will not succeed in what it will try or attempt to do to mankind. So that's a good news for humanity, that the earth will remain, that the earth will remain. That's the good news of the gospel. But how? How is he going to do it? Or how has it been done? Well, number one, we will be warned or forewarned about it. And that those who are able to heed the message, understand it, and tell people in advance will be those who have the light in them. So that the bearers of the gospel, or the bearers of the good news, were given an expose as to how this threat will happen. And they were called bearers of good news because number one, they were taught and they were told about events that will happen. They were meant to be light bearers that will foresee these events, warn people, and hence avert disaster. That's the role of the church. The church is not meant to sound like the world, because the world is sitting in darkness and has not seen the light. But when you become a follower of the Messiah, then you become a bearer of truth. And then you become a light to the world, because now you know what is coming and you can forewarn people in advance. And that is what the book of Revelations is there for. It's there to make you, the reader, the light of the world. Because when you begin to comprehend the book of Revelations, then you can see, you are given extra sight to foresee what is going to happen and warn people about it, and hence avert disaster coming on the earth. So that is the role of the church. That is the role of the church. So it breaks my heart to see the church sound like the world. The world does not know what is coming. The church ought to know. That is why he revealed to John the apocalypse. The church should be the bearer of the news, both good and bad, so that the world is forewarned, because the church has taken its place as the light of the world. But it's sad to see that the church does not bear the light anymore. But if you seek the truth, you will become a bearer of good news, and you will become a light to the world, and you can warn the world of what is coming. The first beast was a religious power that took over the truth as we know it and trampled upon it. And it enabled the second beast now that is rearing its ugly head to come out. Now, be forewarned that the beast coming out of the earth is armed to the teeth. The beast that is coming out of the earth is dangerous, because this one has no soul. Okay, it is not going to lead you to worship. It is going to kill that aspect of you that worships, so that you will no longer be able to worship or create or connect with the Creator. You will become a zomboid being. You will become what's the word? A being without a soul. Okay, you will have no feelings. You will have no emotions. You will be cut off from worship and cut off from praise. That is why Africa must be very, very, very careful as to the decisions you make, because The soul of Africa is worship. Africans were created to worship. We're not wired to be scientific. We're wired to worship. Okay? So, but if you allow this scientific beast, this beast that is called science, if you allow it to rear its ugly head, it will be merciless. It will be worse than racial apartheid. Okay? Because this beast does not know any emotions. All right? Don't get me wrong, science is useful and science has its place. But the beast that is arising from the earth is one that wants to make science a god. When science becomes a god to people, it has no soul, it has no emotions. You will not be able to connect to the Creator. You will become a machine, you will become an object with no attachment to your Creator anymore. Okay? That is worse than hell. It says, do not even fear that the one that can destroy the body. Fear that which can destroy both the body and the soul. Your soul is that in between that is able to remain on the earth and feel connected to the earth, but also be connected to one who is higher than you. All right? And when we take science with all its usefulness and turn it into a god, it will do just that. It will rob you of your ability to worship the one who created you. It will steal from you and it will leave you as an object. It will leave you as a machine. Okay? You will become like the things that you worship. You will become like the gods you worship. You will become like metal. You will become like objects of metal. When Daniel saw that kingdom, the last kingdom was a mixed kingdom of clay, which stands for humanity, and iron, which stands for objects. Scientific tools that will be used to design humankind and make it some kind of a transhuman. One that's not completely human and one that's not completely an object, but you will just not have any soul anymore. So if you go down that line, you are just going to fall into hellfire. You're going straight for the fire. You're going straight for an eternal fire that cannot be quenched. Anyway, I'll show you how this Moimoi turns out when it's done. Please read the book of Revelations and ask the Lord to really open your eyes to see, because everything that is happening right now has already been prophesied about and there is nothing new anymore. We are living in the days of the fulfillment of prophecy. Stay blessed.